Hello and welcome to Washington Exec's video series. I'm senior reporter Rachel Kirkland, and I'm joined today by Dave Egts, who is here to talk about his new role at MuleSoft. And MuleSoft is a Salesforce platform that helps streamline and automate work for IT teams. And David, I have to say, has received numerous industry recognitions. He's been named to WashingtonExec's top cloud execs to watch. He's won multiple highest employee honors from Red Hat, Silicon Graphics, Concurrent Technologies Corporation, just to name a few. And he is the founding co-chair of the Washington Exec CTO Council and advises numerous companies on commercializing open source software and working with the public sector industry. So Dave, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, glad to be here, Rachel.
Now, you were MuleSoft's first ever public sector field CTO. Tell me a little bit about your background and what drew you to MuleSoft.
Yeah, so I've been taking care of government my entire career for decades, and originally, like you mentioned, Concurrent Technologies Corporation, the government contractor and research organization. I did virtual reality there in the '90s, and after that, it's like, wow, I want to work for Silicon Graphics, a hardware vendor, and when I grow up, it's going to be awesome. And I went to SGI, and that was fun, and then it's like, okay, let me try my hand at software. And I went to Red Hat. And so I was there for 15 years. And just recently, I'm starting month 5 here at MuleSoft as part of Salesforce. And so it's really interesting sort of going the circuit, from a contractor to a hardware vendor to a software vendor to now a cloud company. So I'm going for the cycle. But yeah.
So many different experiences.
Yeah. It's a little bit of everything. But the thing that drew me to MuleSoft is it's like, my gosh, the time is right for integration and automation. Where in the public sector. So MuleSoft Research in January, they came out with a connectivity benchmark report. And so it's an annual report that they come out with. And I always fast forward to the public sector slide or page to see how, what's front of mind with public sector. And the things that really jumped out at me were 3 things. One is that 99% of the IT decision makers surveyed, almost 100% in public sector, said that integration challenges were holding back their digital transformation. And that's versus a 94% average, which for the entire IT industry, and that's high, but 99% for the government, that's huge. And then the second thing was that they said that 93% of IT decision makers think that data silos are creating challenges in their agency. So as we think about things like the federal data strategy and everybody having chief data officers, the data is so important to these agencies, but the data does you no good if you can't share it and integrate it with other applications. So that's where integration comes in. And then the third thing that I saw from that report was that the average number of IT projects that IT is being asked to deliver is increased by 46%. So everybody's being asked to do more with less, right? And it never ends. And so seeing all the challenges that public sector has, it's like, wow, I want to really help them out to make their lives easier by helping them integrate their data silos and automate as much as possible.
Absolutely. I can hear how passionate you are about that. Can you talk about, and you've already touched on it some, but what were the driving forces behind the creation of this new role?
Yeah, so at MuleSoft, we have field CTOs that are geographically located, in each of the different theaters that we have, whether it's North America or Asia Pacific and also EMEA. But the thing that we haven't had was an industry-specific field CTO, where we all know that working with governments is a very, very different go-to-market strategy, and the requirements are very, very different between the private sector and the public sector. So they created this role to have somebody that has not just that government perspective, but also a global perspective to allow MuleSoft and Salesforce to see across the entire industry to identify patterns and be able to figure out ways that we could be able to help them. And so yeah, that's the reason why they created that.
Absolutely. What needs do you feel as you're out in the field interacting with customers and potential customers?
Yeah. So when I meet with our customers and potential customers, it's typically at the senior leadership level, whether it's CIOs, CTOs, people pretty far up in the organization, the decision makers, and that's true on the agency side as well as the systems integrator side. And what's I noticed consistently is that they are not just thinking about technology; they're thinking about people, process, and the technology. So if a lot of times the vendors go in and talk with them, they're always talking about technology. And that's such one small piece of the puzzle. And I joke with people, it's like all I have to do is go up to them and say workforce, and then sit back, and they're going to have all kinds of opinions about challenges with the workforce and how they could help. And I love to listen to what they're what they're saying. And a lot of them are coming up with really cool strategies of how to attract and retain talent, especially as we think about a lot of the disruption in the private sector, tech sector of there's an influx of talent that may want to consider a career in public service. And so, hearing about those workforce challenges and being able to attract talent is something that's really important. And what I like to do is when I hear these things, I want to be able to share them with other customers that we have to figure out what those best practices are. And the other thing I want to do is not just listen and share the different trends, but I want to bring back a lot of the joys and concerns that our customers have from a product standpoint as well, and to make sure that the technologies that MuleSoft and Salesforce develop are easy to use by government and ready to use by government.
All right. And now, can you contrast that with what does your work look like internally?
Yeah, so internally, it's three motions that we do, or that I do. But the first thing is working a lot with our field teams to make sure that identifying ways that we could help best serve our customers and make them successful. With MuleSoft and Salesforce, customer success is a key tenet of ours. And we're not successful if our customers aren't successful. So identifying those opportunities. And the second thing is, I work a lot with our marketing folks as well to make sure that all the cool technology that we come out with resonates with our government customers. So, in terms of a lot of it may be applicable to the private sector. When you think about Salesforce, you think about, CRM, customer relationship management, and all that, which is a very private sector sales sort of thing, right? But there are a lot of applicability. There's a lot of applicability to the public sector as well. When you think about things like not just customer success, but citizen success and making sure that they're successful. And then the last thing that I mentioned too is, I mentioned it earlier, is that, taking these lessons learned and making sure that internally we're driving our roadmaps to make sure that our products are extremely easy to use by our government customers, and we're removing any sort of friction and barriers for our customers to adopt our technology.
What are some of the use cases that you're seeing for integration and automation?
So I'll give you two. One is a public sector example, and then a second one is an unusual, crazy use case that's fun. So public sector example, to me, it's like, when we think about customer success and citizen success, if we can make a difference in the lives of the citizens that we serve, that warms my heart. It's such from a purpose standpoint, it's really, really exciting. And so the state of Colorado is a great example I love to talk about, where what we want to do is eliminate friction and sludge from citizens being able to access things like healthcare coverage, right? So with the state of Colorado, before MuleSoft got in, you would have a citizen that would go to their website, they would apply for healthcare coverage, and they would find out in 45 days whether they were eligible or not. And you think about that, that's a long time, 45 days to find out whether you're eligible for health care, especially when people are in need, they're sick, they need help, right? You want to be able to help them instantly. MuleSoft came in, we worked with the state and did some amazing work with them. And we were able to shrink the time to tell the citizens whether they're eligible. We shrunk it from 45 days to instantaneous. So as soon as they hit submit, we told them right away whether they were eligible or not. And they could apply and they can get the assistance right away. So to me, that's incredibly exciting. And they were able to do it without hiring more staff. They were able to double the number of applicants that they had, especially as we think about COVID and the rise of people seeking assistance during that time. And they saved $5 million worth in costs as a result of it. And the other thing that's really cool about with MuleSoft is I talk about creating this flywheel of reuse and with MuleSoft you use APIs to create these building blocks. And you want these, just like Lego bricks, right? That you want to be able to reuse these Lego bricks, these standard components over and over again. And so what they did for the first project that they did it for that real-time Medicaid eligibility, the one that they went from 45 days to instantaneous. But if you think about like all the questions that are asked, the data sources that are being used, a lot of that is very common with other things that the citizens would need. So the second project that they did, it was called LEAP, which is a low-income energy assistance program, where you think about it, it's like, hey, I need help with our medical care. Well, hey, you could think about like cross-sell and upsell in the commercial world. You could do cross-sell and say, hey, I noticed that you are needing assistance for the Medicaid. How about some energy assistance as well? So reusing the APIs and the building blocks to figure out the eligibility for Medicaid were applied to energy assistance. And then the next, then from there, the flywheel spun again, and they were able to do joint agency interoperability too, so people could get more benefits quicker and be able to do that. So to me, that warms my heart that, we're making a difference in people's lives in terms of, especially with children and people that really need it. But the fun, exciting use cases, I was looking through, being the new person, looking at all the cool use cases that we have. I heard that Buffalo Wild Wings is a customer reference of MuleSoft's, and I'm like, that's okay. How is that working? And because I'm like you say chicken wings to me, and I'm all in, right? That's like my favorite. And so I was digging into the use case there, and it wound up that Buffalo Wild Wings, they were having what you call a shrinkage problem, where the beer that they their point of sale systems, their sales wasn't lining up with how much beer was leaving the beer taps and what they were selling. And so, maybe the bartenders were over pouring or doing the wrong things and all that. So an IoT use case example is that Buffalo Wild Wings put flow meters on all of the beer taps in all of their restaurants, wherever they had restaurants, right? And they were able to measure that, what they would call the perfect pour of which beers were being used. And then they're also identifying, areas of shrinkage of, the bartender being a little bit too generous in terms of giving out beer to their friends and things like that. And so, and they were also able to correlate the 1,200 point of sale systems with the beer taps to figure out, it's like, okay, what kegs of beer need to be in the right restaurants and what's popular and what do I need to refill? So it helps them out from their supply chain perspective. And it also led to a double-digit reduction in the amount of beer shrinkage that they were having.
Wow. So very different use cases. I can see a lot of others that could come up. What goals are you actually focusing on this year?
Yeah, so for me, I got three goals. So number one is I want to connect as much as possible with our systems integrator and our government executives to figure out how MuleSoft and Salesforce can make their lives easier. And one of the key things is, being the co-chair of the Washington Exec CTO Council. And, that's the nexus of being able to bring our systems integrators and our shared government customers together to identify problems and figure out how to make their lives easier. The second thing I want to do is share what I learn. I'm a natural sharer. When I learn something, I want to tell everybody all about it and tell all these cool stories. And so I want to do that externally. But the third thing is also sharing those stories internally, again, with our product teams to have that empathy for the plight of our government customers, to make sure that our products are as easy to use and adopt by our public sector customers globally.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. And we look forward to getting to know you better and continuing to work with you.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate it, Rachel. And thanks for the opportunity to have me on.